We can't do what we do if you don't do your part. The life of a state CISO is complicated. And if you've talked to one state CISO, you've talked to one state CISO, because I know 50 other state CISOs, one from each state and several from territories, and we compare our lives frequently. We meet at conferences like NASCIO and MSISAC. We compare our lives, and each one of us have the same challenges in different environments, in different architectures. Some states are fully centralized. They still have the same challenges that we do. Some states are partially centralized. Some are very decentralized. And the challenges are, the threats are the same, but the challenges are the same, but how we get around those challenges varies quite considerably. In my role here at the state of Washington, a lot of what I do is focus on policy, on governance, on communication, on taking a look at the enterprise and trying to figure out what is best for the entire state. And hey, oftentimes I get it wrong. John and Jeannie will both tell you, I screw it up every once in a while, because I'll come out with some sort of what I think is a grand idea, and that's not going to work for an agency. So we have to look at how to compromise, how to take into account the least common denominator while also meeting the needs of those more advanced, more mature agencies. So my job is very political, not in terms of working with the governor's office and the legislature, but it's very political in working with and collaborating with agencies and making sure that their needs are met while trying to achieve the goals and objectives at the state level.
Well, that's a very thorough response. And I think that's reassuring, and then it's amazing to kind of hear that across the nation, we're facing very similar problems, and that we all have unique backgrounds and kind of unique scenarios that we have to work with, and that collaboration is key. Jean, same question. What does life of a CISO really look like in your organization?
Ralph kind of stole my thunder. I mean, I say everything is about governance, policy, and relationship building, and that's every day. Every day it's a new challenge, and whatever I plan for the day, I come in and find out there's something else. Something hit my desk before this morning, and it's like, now I've got to stop what I was going to do and deal with what came and hit my desk this morning. So you really have to be nimble and flexible and roll with it, with what's happening every day, because it's different every day. And it's one of the things I love about this career field, because you have to learn so much all the time. You're in continuous learn mode. And but I'm going to go back to it's about relationships. So I spend a lot of time talking with people, understanding what their problems are, what their issues are, and then working on a lot of policy and governance. And that's kind of where I am. I'm just over 2 months new into this role, and it's the same as other CISO roles I've held. Different problems in the state, but the same kinds of things, with the exception of some of the other ones. In healthcare, it's way different, hospitals, but yeah.
Great response. Yeah, I can't say as I'm getting older that I'm still flexible and nimble, but our jobs definitely make us flexible and nimble. So John, last but not least, same question to you. What does a day as a life of a CISO look like for the Department of Health?
Well, so we're evolving. 10 years ago, I think our role as a CISO or in technical operations was really about technical tools to protect us from outside threats. And we've really gotten quite good technically at defending things. And our problem really now is moving towards risk management and protecting the information that individual users have access to. In some cases, users have a great deal of access, and if they are behaving in an irresponsible manner, they're putting everyone at risk and with the things that they have access to. So that's not really a technical challenge. That is really about education, training, partnering with business units to make sure that we have a shared mission and a shared objective, and that they view us as a facilitator for enabling safe and secure applications, and not as an administrative hurdle that they have to overcome in order to get their particular pet project out. So I've from a technology background, I've turned into a risk manager and a salesman.
For sure. I mean, I would agree. I've seen it a lot, even in my tenure in public service, that we've gone a lot away from focusing so much on tech operations to now risk management and strategy. And there's a lot of collaboration and conversations that drive around that. And that actually leads into a great segue into our next question for Ralph. At the statewide level, how do you approach coordinating cybersecurity across diverse agencies with varying levels of maturity?
As I mentioned before, we have to take those different levels of maturity into account, and we have to figure out what is going to work for the largest majority of the agencies. And if the minimum baseline is higher than what some agencies can achieve, we need to, at the state level, we need to work with them to get them up to that level, to get them to provide assistance and bring them up. It's challenging. It's all about negotiation. It's all about learning. It's all about listening. It's communicating. It's understanding what the situation is from a maturity level, from a resource level, from a compliance level, from a funding level at the agency, from the agency's perspective, and then working with them to achieve whatever the goal or objective is. And in some cases, we may have to allow certain things to go by the wayside. We would do a risk assessment. John was right on there. We are more about risk managers. He was absolutely correct in that, 10 years ago, we were all about the technology. We were all about sitting there and working in those fancy consoles and playing with the toys. Those of us who are now CISOs, we rarely get to do that. And, honestly, I don't know, I can't speak for Jeannie or John, but I sometimes miss it. Because that was when life was fun. It's all, in reality, at the state level, it's all about figuring out what is going to achieve the goals and what those goals are. You can't set a goal that has no possibility of being achieved by 60% of your agencies, right? So you have to work with the agencies to figure out what the state should be doing. And sometimes, I often have to relent because, I've been doing this. I've been a CISO for 20 years. I've been doing it a long time. And, I've got certain ideas of the way things should be. And oftentimes I get convinced by people like Jeannie and John that, you're being a little too harsh, or you're going too far. That is not the way we're gonna sell this here. And John was right. You also have to be a salesman. John, what's it going to take to get you in that new car today, man? It is about salesmanship.
For sure. And something that really stood out, I mean, a lot of us understand and know that it takes communication and trust, and that builds into our strategic goals and objectives, and just communicating. It's heavily important. And I think that being able to create that dialogue where agencies can convey their concern and their perspective is critical in order for us to move forward and grow our maturity. So Jeannie, as someone that's newer to your role in the Department of Agriculture, what has surprised you most about becoming assistant there at that agency?
You know, I have to say it's the lack of resources. Having been in multiple sectors, served in leadership roles across different sectors and different, federal and state agencies, it was kind of, it took me aback to see the lack of resources that we have. And so it's made me shift my focus to, figuring out how we can do this better. And when I talk about lack of resources, I mean in every way. Our IT staff is very slim compared to other places I've been. So we're short. We have a shortage of funding, people, IT tools, training, just about everything. So we're going to have to work smarter, not harder. And so that means, in my book, and my past experience, the only way to be successful is really to, and by the way, I don't feel like I'm alone when I talk to other CISOs at other state agencies here in Washington State. I hear the same thing, so it's like an echo chamber. So the way we're going to be successful is collectively through collaboration. And so it goes back to people and relationship building and coordination and collaboration with peers, coming up with creative ways to reuse objects and share resources across, not just within the organization, but across even agencies within the state. So that's kind of what I've been it's churning on. I churn on ideas before they start to come to fruition, and that's kind of where I'm at. So I've been I stepped into a lesser role at the Attorney General's office for 18 months. It was a term position. So that kind of prepared me for this, but because I kind of knew that it was going to be a challenge, but we'll make it work and we'll get stuff done, but we're going to have to work smarter, not harder.
Yes. And I feel that as a leader in IT, we have to be strategic and creative and resourceful. And money doesn't grow on trees. And IT, SaaS solutions, and technology hardware is expensive, and people are expensive. And so, protecting data, managing data, and, building, smart resources is essential, especially in the time that we're in with our budget deficits. John, in healthcare, protecting data is also about protecting lives. How does that responsibility shape your approach to cybersecurity?
Well, the sense of shared mission at DOH is very important to sort of get people on the same page and agreeing to the same priorities. And as you know, we all sort of get myopic in our view of our job and the things that are important to us. And so it's a little easier at the Department of Health to say, these people are depending on us to do our job well every day, and I need you to help me do it. And these are the things that we need to do in order together safely deliver these products and protect this information that people have. We have confidential information that would be destructive to very many people if it was to become public or to be used against them. And so sort of giving people that sense of responsibility that they have, really awesome responsibility to make sure that they're doing their job and not being cavalier in their approach to how they are using, sharing, and storing information.
What stood out to me, especially, is that business alignment. I mean, IT has become such a critical part of every organization, and it takes a strong communication and alliance trust to make that connection. And this is a plug. We do have a technology business management group. People that want to join us, we would love to bring the business side and connect with them as well. So that's a great point, that it isn't just about IT anymore. It's about that embedding of IT in the business as well. So Ralph, coming back to you and looking ahead, what is your top priority for improving the state's cybersecurity posture?
Well, before I go into that, I just want to address something you just said there, Kim. You're absolutely right. Technology is no longer about technology itself, right? Technology is, we're as essential to a business operation as the accounting department. You can't run a business without an accountant. You can't run a business today without technology. And we in cybersecurity, we have got to be business enablers. We can no longer be what we were 20 years ago when I got into the business, the office of no. We have got to say, yes, let's see how we can make that happen. We understand your goals, your objectives, and let's see how we can make that happen. But we also have this responsibility of trust to protect the information, the infrastructure, and so on. What do I see coming up in the future? A lot of change. There are a lot of things coming up we've all been talking about artificial intelligence for the last couple of years. That is going to change IT. That is going to change business. That is going to change a lot of things. It's already changing a lot of things. We have to embrace it. It's here. It's not going away. So we have to embrace it. We have to figure out ways to utilize it, to make ourselves more efficient. Jeannie mentioned we need to be able to do more with less. Absolutely. Well, AI can help us in that way if we know how to use it. But we have to, again, use it responsibly, making sure that we're not putting Category 3 and Category 4 data into a public artificial intelligence engine that's going to use it as part of the LLM. The other things are coming up. Quantum computing. Now, I don't know a lot about quantum computing, but I understand that it's going to be very disruptive as well. We use passwords now that are 8 characters long, and it takes a certain amount of time for modern computers to break that. My understanding is that quantum computing can break could break an 8-character password in seconds. Why do you think we're going to 15 characters come January 1? That's going to help with that. We didn't make that decision relative to quantum computing, but we wanted to make it harder for automated processes to break our passwords and also allow you users to improve your user experience by not having to change your password every 45, 72, 90 days, whatever, and allowing it to go to 365 days makes your user experience much better. The pace of change in IT is growing so fast that we in IT and especially in cybersecurity, we're going to have to start living with even more ambiguity than we have right now. We're going to have to be much more adaptable. We're going to have to be able to make decisions with even less information. Obviously, we want to make decisions with the most information that we can have so that we can impact the fewest people possible based on the decision that we make. But we may not have that luxury come the future. Things are changing so rapidly that we may not be able to get the level of information that we want to have, and we may have to make more and more decisions in more of an ambiguous fashion. So we have to be adaptable. And unfortunately, that means our users, our constituents, our customers may also have to be a bit more adaptable than they are. So fortunately for me, I'm not far from retirement. I may not have to live with too much of that. Now, that is not a threat. I'm not leaving next month. I'm just saying I'm getting into that, into that area. So,
yeah. I mean, one thing that really again stood out to me is the quantum leap and just the advances in technology, and again, just how much that impacts the state and the residents that we serve. And I may have had a moment where I was reflecting back on the 1989 TV series Quantum Leap, and I think that was one of my favorite shows for its time. It was remarkable. So sorry, little facilitator squirrel, happy thought. Um, so Jeannie, as we're talking about embracing change and finding ways to be efficient in a resource constrained environment, what is your biggest challenge and how do you prioritize operational demands versus strategic planning?
That's a tough one. I think it's been a problem for, decades for me. And as I look back on my career, how do you get that right balance? And it's really back to risk-based decisions. So you've really got to, as a CISO in a government organization, it's balancing the operational demands with the strategic direction and aligning the cybersecurity initiatives with the core mission of the agency and looking at a risk-based approach to prioritizing daily security operations such as incident response and patching and compliance. And I rely on delegation wherever I can. I delegate and empower because I feel at this stage in my career, it's about empowering others, help them, coach them, but empower them and delegate to them. And then I try to set time aside. Sometimes it's after hours to do the longer term things like thinking about things like zero trust architecture, workforce development, and that governance and compliance and policy stuff. Governance is a big thing for me right now because without the governance, we're kind of the right hand isn't working very well with the left hand. And so I'm looking at that and how we can create and establish those documents and policies to get that defined well so that we can operate more efficiently and make sure that we kind of know what we're doing and how we're doing it. The incident response plan is another one I'm working on, and the whole IT policy document, which ISMS is what they call it in ISO 27001, and whatever you want to call it here. So part of the old FISMA 853 controls. So that's what's been working for me for a long time, and I'm just going to keep doing that. It's juggling.
For sure. And I love the fact that you are empowering your team to, take on that burden with you because it is a journey. That element is a big part of building trust, and governance is about, setting out clear boundaries and having, those kind of lines to kind of keep us in focus and move forward together. It's so important. And I loved policy. That is, it's important stuff. And it can be really challenging to get everybody to agree on that trajectory of moving forward. So great points there. So John, how do you manage a balance between accessibility of health services and the need for security, especially with the new Executive Order 2506 coming out from the governor?
This is a great question. And it's actually one of the main things that I believe I do, or one of my main functions is, so some organizations have zero tolerance for risk, and it's a philosophical difference. For me, I think you have to look at all of everything that's involved. So if you have a conflict between you're trying to publish a service that maybe it doesn't meet the minimums for passwords, for instance, or dictionaries, you have to look at that and sort of weigh all the factors. What the things that I look at are what's the risk, right? What is the likelihood that this weakness will be exploited? And then I have to sort of multiply that by what's the impact. If it's not likely and there's very little impact, then is that really a risk that I'm willing to transfer? Now, I do say that if I make that evaluation and transfer the risk to me and it goes sideways, then I get to own that. And, I have to explain why I made that decision, which is sort of, that's why we get to call this role. But on the other hand, you don't want to get in front of very important public health programs for a minor weakness or something where the impact is not so large. So that's where the human factor comes in. That's where the decisions are made, to where you balance out these needs. In some cases, maybe it's a very sensitive database. You know, we may have, I think we have some information on HIV, which would be devastating for that information to be stolen and to get out. So in that case, the impact is so high that my risk tolerance is very, very low. You know, in other cases, I'll sort of evaluate that and make decisions, you know, so that these things can go forward.
And that's remarkable. And I mean, you do have a lot of, like you said, precious data that, you know, can impact somebody's life significantly. And so as stewards and being public servants, you know, I think a lot of our efforts and energy goes towards that great objective of serving our residents. And kind of throwing a little curveball into our panel questions because we have time. How can a CISO, Ralph, and their agencies' daily security priorities align with the Washington State's newly published strategic plans and the IT cybersecurity strategic plan?
Wow.
Curveball.
Yeah, that's definitely a curveball. Well, first of all, become familiar with those strategic plans, both the Washington State Strategic Plan and the Enterprise IT Security Strategic Plan. They align with one another. They were designed to do so. And as you are putting your agency's plans together, your executives should be considering those in terms of how, because as I said before, IT is a business enabler. You can't do your work without IT anymore. You can't do your work without security and privacy anymore. And your executives should be keeping in mind what the state's goals and objectives are in IT, in protecting the data and the infrastructure. So we have a goal in the Washington State Strategic Plan, and forgive me, I don't remember the words, but it's all about modernization of our infrastructure, of our systems, of our applications, because we can't continue to work on and operate on software that's 40 years old, hardware that's 20 years old. It's not sustainable. Those types of situations end up costing us more than if we were able to modernize and upgrade and transform the way our IT systems work. So when your organization, your agency is putting together their plans for the year, they should be looking at those plans. You in security should be looking at those plans and figuring out how to support the third goal for example, in the IT security strategic plan of providing and creating a sustainable and again, I don't have the language right. Huh?
You're doing great. You're doing fine.
Sustainable and resilient. I think of the terms sustainable and resilient workforce, because that's something that has to happen with us as well. Your workforce has to be resilient. They have to be adaptable. They have to be able to go with more modern systems. We need to start embracing artificial intelligence even more in cybersecurity, because we receive over 2 billion, with a B, events in our logging system every month. We can't have a person looking at that. We have to use machine learning, artificial intelligence to examine those log entries to find the things that are actually happening that are bad. So we have to start embracing artificial intelligence even more in the cybersecurity arena.
And thank you, Ralph, again for punting the ball, because I know it was a curveball. I appreciate it. And then I think it was a great response too. Jeannie and John, and even you, Ralph, if you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice about becoming a CISO, what would it be?
Go ahead. I'll let one of you two answer first.
Uh, you know, so I've evolved over time to where I am now because of all the mistakes that I have made. So I don't know if like Ralph, I'm closing in on my sunset, right? So I mean, there are so many mistakes I wish I hadn't had made. There were so many relationships I wish I'd done a better job at cultivating that I didn't do. I would have been more effective. But on the other hand, I mean, I got here from there because of all of the sort of mistakes inside the alleys and different things I did wrong. So I don't know how to answer that. The things I was the mistakes I made are what made me better. So I think that's the price to be paid.
And I think that goes with life in general. I mean, like, lessons learned and learning from things that are presented to you and opportunities missed and just kind of enjoying that ride and, again, building those relationships. That's essential in life. I think in any profession, it's very important to have that reflection. How about you, Jeannie?
I wrote down two things because I kind of prepared to answer any of these, and it was right in line with what you said. It's don't be afraid of making mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. Just learn from them. And then the second thing, I swear, relationships. I have relationships for 40 years with people that live all over the world, and I maintain those relationships with these people, and they're invaluable. I still get messages when something big is going on the internet. It's like, have you seen this vulnerability in XYZ? And it's like, no, I didn't. And then I go look. So those relationships are really important because it's how work gets done. It really is. It's what makes the world go round.
And how about you, Rob?
Well, for me, I think I think that I would probably have given my younger self advice very similar to what John and Jeannie have said. Learn from your mistakes because you will make them. We all do. And always be accountable for your mistakes. I've known and had experiences where so many people, they don't own up to their mistakes, but the mistake happens, and you have to be accountable. You have to understand that, yeah, you're gonna blow it every once in a while. I've been in it for such a long time though, and my way of getting in it was so different than so many other people that are getting in it today. That I I'm not sure what I would have told myself 20 years ago. Maybe it's don't do it, but on the other hand, I've had a great 20 years. You know, it's been 20 years of frustration. It's been 20 years of angst. It's been 20 years of uncertainty. But on the other hand, it's been fantastic. So I don't know. So looking at it from the outside, I might have told myself, don't do it. But I think that I would have regretted that had I made that, given myself that advice and taken that advice. I know that sounds really weird, but.
Well, I mean, and I don't know if everybody on this call knows, but Ralph's journey path was through mortician school and the funeral director. So, I mean, it's not necessarily everybody's way into IT, but it's definitely a unique journey. And, we've made impacts and, we have built this remarkable community here in the state. I always learn something from each and every one of you. And the empathy and compassion and being a servant leader is another element I think is very uniform to what you guys are saying. Like, be the leader that you want to be in the position that you're in and continue to strive for change. And as Bill Kehoe said, is lean in. It's going to be hard and there's going to be times that you just fall down, but you got to get yourself back up. And so I think it's remarkable to hear your perspective and give that insight to your journey and, the future that you see for your agencies and for the state of Washington. And as we start closing out, is there anything, Jeannie, John, or Ralph, that you guys would like to add before we open up the chat?
I would just say that being a CISO, as I said before, has been extremely rewarding for me. I'd been in IT for years before I became a CISO. I was actually on the track to be a CIO. And then I found security. Now, it's a subgroup of IT, right? And it just became my passion. And I realized that I was asked when Bill Kehoe left Los Angeles County. I was not asked by anybody official, but I was asked by a number of people, if they offered you the CIO position, would you take it? And my answer was absolutely not. Absolutely not. I said, a CIO has to care about so many things that I don't want to care about. I like security. I love security. It's been my passion, and I can't imagine doing anything else. As I contemplate the idea of retirement, my retirement is not going to be sitting in my armchair watching daytime television all day. I'm going to go find more security work to do, maybe a little fewer hours than I put in now, right? Maybe working at 20 hours a week instead of 45 to 60. But it'll keep me it'll keep me young. It'll keep me alive. It'll give me a reason to get up in the morning, because daytime television is not going to do that for me.
Sure, but there's always reruns of Quantum Leap out there. I just want to bring that full circle.
There is that.
You could always watch some quality reruns, or Knight Rider. That was another hit for me that I really enjoyed.
Oh, wow.
Jeannie and John, is there anything else that you would like to add before we open the chat?
Yeah, I'd like to add a little bit to Ralph, because I too was a CIO, and I have a technical operations background, and my security role was just part of my CIO role. And security is so much better. Managing a small team that is more strategic driven, as opposed to a CIO who's very project manager sort of driven, and managing a larger team and moving the ball every day. That's fun too, but it's exhausting. Whereas in security, you have a small, close-knit team of professionals that each know the job very well. I also, I enjoy mentoring and growing people, and watching them flourish and create an environment where they flourish. And so that's a lot more rewarding in a smaller team than in a bigger team. So security is definitely a great way to go in technology.
And
small but mighty. Yeah. Jeannie?
And I would just kind of mirror what they're saying. I tell people, follow your passion. People who try to get into security because the money or some other reason, it isn't going to work. Follow your passion and everything else falls into place. And everybody I know who works in this career field that is worth anything follows their passion and loves this career field. And I'm in that camp too. I mean, I stumbled upon it on a hacker case on the internet in 1985, and I haven't turned back, So.
And we're so glad that you're here. And while the chat is opening up, all three of you guys talked about, passion and building that community and having future leaders and supporting people as they grow in this industry. And I want to also put a plug in that we do have this opportunity through the Technology Management Council, where we are doing a mentorship program. So I'm going to be dropping some resources into the chat. This is a great opportunity. Please share the word. We would love to have some mentees. We have some great mentors available, and this is how we grow as a state, and again, to serve the residents of Washington. So as our panelists, again, thank you, all three of you, for joining us today and giving us insights into the challenges and the opportunities of leading cybersecurity programs. the chat's open. If anybody wants to come off mute and ask questions, we can put them in the hot seat and let's do it. Dayton.
Danton, go ahead and take yourself off mute. There you go.
Howdy, howdy. I'd like to start. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Good afternoon. I just wanted to say hi to John Weeks, and there'll be a question in here somewhere. Just wanted to embarrass him for a little bit. John Weeks used to be my supervisor back at DOH a long, long time ago, and I just wanted to just thank him for the molding, the mentorship that he gave me while I was there. I started working for Department of Health in 2018, and I had a supervisor. I had two supervisors, but John Weeks didn't become my supervisor until much later on. And I want to say that this was the first person to ever be brave enough to tell me that I did not have the tools, that I was not ready, that I was not, as good as I thought I was, but not like that, not that brash, but in the right way, in the mentorship way. And at the time, I was not ready to hear that because I was young and I thought I was this, I thought I was that. But just in the time between then and there, just so many of his words, so many of his lessons have resonated so well. And just the time that I've taken to put in the work and do the education that started with that spark from John. I just want him to know that. I want him to know that his words got through to that guy. And then I also wanted to give a shout out to Robert Jeffers and the leadership development course with SPCC at IPMA. Randy Holt as well at DOH is also one of my mentors in work and life and with my health. But John, you touched on it earlier, that I believe the cornerstone of a secure Washington, of a secure everything is education and compassion with our customers. Because once you know better, you do better. And if we can teach our customers to do better, to know better security, we won't have the risk. We won't need the tools to mitigate if everyone knows what you know. And that's something that you instilled in me to get that education out there. So the question is, can you expound upon your kind of stance on bringing out a person's personal best, their personal goals and their IT education? Because there's something that I say you have, and that Ralph Johnson definitely has. I work with Ralph as well, and I wrote it down. I would say you have strong IT morals and IT ethics, and that trumps any technology that comes out, any quantum computer, any AI, because you will know how to use it, because your IT ethics are morally sound, your IT morals are there. So the question that I wanted to get to is can you speak more about your goals on having your direct reports better themselves? Sorry about that.
Well, so Danton, it's great to see you. It's been a few years, and I really appreciate the kind words. If you ask me why I do this, this is the reason I do this. Is I have people like Danton and others who do reach out to me and tell me the impact that I have had on their lives and careers. It means everything to me. I started out as a pretty good router switch guy, and I probably would have had probably would have aged better if I had stayed there. But I really do enjoy working with people and developing people. It starts with talent. Unfortunately, these roles do require an aptitude and the ability to solve problems quickly. And so the most important thing that you really can do is make sure that you can retain and attract talent. Unfortunately, I lost Danton, but I tried to retain him, but not successfully. And yeah, because he was in a hurry, and I think he needed more time in the saddle before I added more responsibility. But yeah, that is true. But it was quite a blow to lose him. Uh, but yeah, it's really, I think everything starts. You can't lead without values. If you don't have if you don't articulate your values and live by your values, then you can't lead successfully. People will do what you ask them to do because you're the boss. But if you want, if you really want people to buy into a vision and get behind you and support you, you need to have those shared values together.
Right. And I just wanted to tell you, you didn't lose Danton. Danton moved on to better things at Watech. But I also just want you to know in front of everyone, I was wrong. Like, I get it. I get it now. I didn't get it then. I needed to grow. I needed that education, and I got it. And thank you. Thank you for doing the work. And thank you for inspiring more people to do the work.
Let me just say that I've been a mentor in the MSISAC mentoring program for about 8 years, and my first mentee was a security administrator of some sort in Sacramento County, and he is now the CISO for Sacramento County. When I was at Los Angeles County and I left, one of my deputies became my successor. And I'm not saying that to elevate me. I'm saying that because it is very satisfying and very empowering to us to see those people that we have advised elevate themselves. And sometimes they go above and beyond us, and do even bigger and better things than we do. And Danton, I had an experience similar to yours way back when I was in college. I had a professor sit me down and gave me a come to Jesus moment, basically saying, this is not the career for you. This is not the degree that you need to be getting. And he was absolutely right. If I had pursued that degree, I would not be where I'm at today. I would probably not be as happy as I am today and as satisfied as I am today. And so it's great that, we all can find those mentors and advisors that can be that open and honest with you. And I've had to do that with a couple of people as well. My wife in particular, actually. But then again,
I found the
Careful,
best
Rob, we're still
mentors.
recording.
Yes, it's
And,
often the ones you disagree with that ends up being your best mentors.
And Danton, I hope you take Venmo. I know I'm gonna owe you a lot of money for, that great plug. I'm just kidding. No, it was very heartfelt and I really appreciate that. And to close this out, Randy, do you want to add a few words before we wrap up this session?
Oh my goodness,
For
Randy.
sure, for sure. Yeah.
No pressure.
No pressure. John has been my boss, my mentor, my friend for the past 2 years, and he has made me undoubt myself, put it all in my hands, gave me the respect and the authorization to do what you need to do, and that takes a lot, and
Yes.
that's a lot of trust, and and
I didn't pay these gentlemen.
No,
I literally have not talked to John in
Watching
over
you.
2 years.
But, I gotta put a plug. He is a kind human being. And I get him. And it's always good to know that you have somebody who wants to see you succeed and excel and sees your potential. So I'll leave it at that.
It's a beautiful closing statement. If everybody can use their little react emoji, I want to just do a big round of applause. Thank you so much for giving us that seat and that time to sit with you and get your perspective. We truly appreciate it. This has been a great event. We are just so happy to have each and every one of you on the call. And again, if you have questions about the mentorship program, resources are in the chat. Better yourself, better your future, and become a leader in what you do day to day. And again, we're here to serve the residents of Washington. And thank you so much for joining us today.
And thank you, Kim. It's been a great opportunity to have
fun.
you moderate this panel.
Thank you, everybody. Enjoy your day.